Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenya Revolutionary. I'm giving you a Christmas Eve special. But anyway, karibuni sana, karibuni sana. Today we want to address something really very quick, short, very briefly. And I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. It's going to be a brief video. I'm not going to keep you here long. So let's get started with the formalities. If this is your first time on this channel, please recognize I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. So if you like that kind of content, this is the place for you. Hurry up and subscribe, share, like, comment, do all the good stuff. And also make sure that that notification bell is on. So every time I come on, you can jump in and watch this video live while I speak about what I speak about, all right? The topic. And you can also, jump in. Sometimes I will let you in. If I have time, I'll put the link in so you can come in and actually be part of the studio and have a discussion. Let's have a live debate discussion and continue on, right? For those of you who subscribe, the first order of business is to do what? Like the video, okay? And also make sure that your notification button on is on, right? Share it with your friends so they hear from you. Anyway, the topic of the day, the topic at hand is ODM Shenanigans plus United Opposition equals to Ruto. Re-election? I don't know. We'll find out. But let's talk about this, okay? As you know, I know some of you might say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I just want to kind of review what's happening in the Kenyan politics, current Kenyan politics, okay? What we are experiencing. You see this whole ODM wrangles around ODM with the Sifuna faction versus Gladys Wanga faction, okay? The so-called ODM members who are in the so-called government, Hassan Joho, Badi, Wanga, and the rest of Uru, who are in support of Ruto's re-election, who are more aligned and are really want to make sure that they stick to this broad-based arrangement, which was basically an arrangement between Raila Odinga, who was essentially the ODM face. He is the owner, he is ODM, is everything. But we know Raila Odinga is gone, so these guys, they have everything to lose in case ODM, part ways with UDA because they'll be kicked out of government. We know that, okay? So this is prompting this whole wrangles. Okay, now the people who are on the fringe, the Sifunas who might suspect that they may not have a future in ODM are looking at it and thinking, you know what? I'm better off challenging this whole ODM broad-based arrangement because he understands that Ruto might lose because Ruto is weaker without Raila Odinga. Not only that, even though the United Opposition do not have a strong ideas or they don't have a strong pull, they're not palatable to the wananchi of Kenya. The people of Kenya looking at them as if they're like weak. They don't have a strong resolve. The candidates that they have are not appealing to the masses. People like Sifuna, who might be on the fence, they feel like the overall feeling among Kenyans is that Ruto is very unpopular, and this might be the reason why some people might opt for a Kalonzo or Matiang'i or somebody else just to get Ruto out of there because they understand how Ruto is very unpopular, okay? So anyway, so we see this, we had Sifuna and Orengo who spoke, I think they were in Vihiga or somewhere else, where they spoke about, basically chastising the Gladys Wanga, the people who are really fighting so hard to maintain this, the re-election of Ruto, and trying to convince others that, ODM should stick to this broad-based government and actually endorse Ruto as the presidential candidate under the banner of the ODM UDA affiliation or a coalition, so to speak, okay? And there are those who the Sifunas and Orengos who are saying that no, we are a party of our own. We entered this broad-based government in 2027. So come 2027, we shall also, have our own presidential candidate. And they are right, because if you remember in the last minute that Raila Odinga held, I think it was in Nakuru somewhere, or Machakos, Raila Odinga said that where the ulisikia wapi ati ODM will not floor candidate in 2027. And the majority of Kenyans understand, given Raila's, modus operandi, how he operates. He always enters into a coalition until the next elections, okay? And when the next elections comes through, comes he nears, he jumps ship and he runs for president again. Then there's chaos. Then he gets it. That's how he actually managed to stay in this, become a co-president for all these years since 2007. Raila a co-president. Okay, that's the biggest trick that Raila always pulled on Kenyans. Every time he goes to elections, whether he loses or wins, he's going to negotiate for 50-50 or whatever the case is, for whatever he wants, his business case, his friends, his relatives, to be part of government, including himself. Then he stays until the next election year. Then he part ways with whoever he had a deal with, runs against him. Again, chaos ensues. Then Raila Odinga does the same thing, comes back, another handshake. So this was what he was planning again in 2027. That's why he came out and said in his last meeting when he was in Machakos, like I said, the party meeting, he made it very clear that he was doing what? ODM shall have its own candidate. And guess who was going to be the candidate for ODM in 2027? Had Raila been alive, or would have been alive, if he was alive, he would have stood for presidency again in 2027. I have no doubt about it, because Raila was doing something that he did best: play the Kenyan people. Anajifanya ako opposition, then once he loses or wins and negotiate for a position, then he becomes part of the government. Okay, then again, when we approach the next government, the next elections, anajifanya sa ako opposition tena, he starts speaking against the government. So maybe perhaps the bigwigs who know about this trick, they will say, enough is enough. This guy has been playing Kenyans for a long time, and we are tired of him blackmailing us, or basically making us agree to his terms. So maybe they got rid of him because of that. I don't know. I'm not saying that Ruto or some people took Raila out, but it is not out of the realms of possibility that perhaps the political class had grown tired of Raila's games. I'm twisting them into a government of national unity. So maybe they did this. I don't know. But I that's a story for another day. But anyway, so like I mentioned, let me just get back to what I'm trying to say here. Okay? Like the video, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to watch this on repeat, please do so again. Like the video, subscribe, share, comment, and do all that good stuff. So what is happening is this. Look at all the possible, the so-called Rutos, the people who are in the opposition, Ruto's competition heading up to 2027. Okay, look at Ruto's competition. If you look at every main rich voting bloc in Kenya, you will realize that Ruto has managed to do what? Bring in confusion. It might not be a real confusion with the voters, but it is confusion among the so-called perceived leadership. If you go to Central Province, what's going on in Central Province right now? There's all this shenanigans about, Kindiki, the Embu people, the Meru people, even in deep into the Kikuyu land, okay? Ruto wants to create this perception, that there is a division among the people in Central Province. How does he do that? Remember, again, I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not saying the voters are confused as to who they would like to vote for. It is very clear that the voters probably will not vote for Ruto. But again, this is a game of perception. Perception creates reality. Right. So what Ruto is doing, because like I told you, I always go back to this. I want you to understand me. In order to pull off rigging of an election, okay, in order to pull that off, you have to create something that will support the narrative that will be painted once the votes have been rigged and Ruto has declared himself the winner of the 2027 elections. I've been saying this for a long time. You understand what I'm saying? Again, I will repeat. I want you to listen carefully. I'm teaching you something that you need to understand. I've often told you that as far as the mechanics of the electoral process has already been done. It's already programmed to rig Ruto in 2027. The personnel who are going to oversee the process of the electoral process in Kenya in 2027 are already biased. They are bought by Ruto. They're going to conduct Ruto's orders. Okay? The governmental body that is mandated to oversee the electoral process in Kenya, which is the IEBC, from the chairman to majority of the agents that are going to be involved in these elections, are under Ruto's pockets, are in Ruto's pocket. Their palms have been greased with millions and millions of Kenyan shillings. So the instruments, okay, because remember, I told you, why do you think advanced so-called democracies, advanced nations like France and among others, European countries, Germany, they moved away from these voting machines? It is because they are unreliable. They can be manipulated to tabulate the votes, the counting of the votes in favor of a particular candidate, because the machines can be compromised. I usually give you again, a good reference is what's happening the past elections and the previous election. What's the year that Joe Biden won the elections in the US? Just type in Maricopa County in Arizona. There was a huge case up there, okay, about these voting machines, and you know the usual suspect that the company that the Venezuelan company that actually owned these voting machines, and they're notoriously known for meddling and programming these machines to give victory to a particular candidate. So go look at Maricopa County, Arizona. This is not new. It's the same company that actually provided Kenya with those electoral voting machines. Okay? And we know the cases of how they were hacked. There was access to it, which is illegal in Kenya and everywhere, and even though we ended up with vifaranga via whatever, kura, or whatever the case is, okay? So what I'm trying to say is this, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me, don't lose the whole plot. There's a bigger picture I'm painting here. I'm trying to tell you that everything regarding the 2027 elections is already pre-programmed to give Ruto victory, rigged. But you cannot just rig an elections and then declare yourself president without data or perception that backs your victory. Okay? Now, unless you're in Cameroon with, I think, Omam Babia, whatever the case is, you know, where this guy just blatantly says he has 99% of the votes, or you are in Uganda, you know, where you're Museveni, unamka na bunduki na unasema, I got the 99.9999 votes in favor of myself, so I'm the victim, you know, I'm the winner. It doesn't fly in Kenya. Kenya is a little bit different, okay? We have people who speak up, okay? There are people who are fighting back. Not to the extent that we would like to, but there are people who actually challenge this. But let's just stick to it. So here it is. So Ruto knows that if he comes out, I'll give you example. Let me support my point here before I even go into that. The reason why I tell you Kenyans will fight back, okay, if it is blatantly clear that Ruto has rigged himself back into power. In 2017, Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta pulled this off, tried to pull this off. 2017. And that's where we had that historical Maragal ruling, because it was clear, you know, the opposition at that time, led by Raila Odinga and others, you know, they proved to the courts that the machines were actually hacked and rigged to tabulate the votes in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta. And Maraga had to nullify the elections, okay? Because the evidence was overwhelming, okay? So you can see, if it is clear, because there was no way Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017, he had no supporting data. He could not argue that nilipata overwhelming kura in Nyanza, Ukambani, Coast, Northeastern, Nairobi, you know, Narok, or whatever the case. No, he could not argue that, because the narrative, the people knew, it was obvious that the only support he would get was going to come from Rift Valley and Central. And even some parts of Rift Valley, he never got support. Because if you remember, when they called for re-election and Raila boycotted the elections, there were people in Eldoret who refused to vote, respecting what Raila actually was calling for. Watu wakae wasivote. So what I'm trying to say is that Kenya is unique in that sense that at least the people always fight back if it's obvious that there's an injustice taking place. Now, is it to the extent that I would like or we would like? No. But if it's obvious, especially when it comes to elections, presidential one, we take notice. So what I'm trying to say is this, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, and comrades. I told you, and I keep on telling you this. As far as the mechanics, the personnel, what is supposed to be the independent part of governmental institution that's supposed to oversee these elections and the machines thereof, they're all programmed and the people are paid to hand over victory, to give victory to Ruto come 2027. So Ruto's main hurdle at this point is to create a supporting narrative. That way, it gives doubt to any unsuspecting Kenyan who is sitting there, who will be looking at these elections and saying, okay, Ruto amesema ameshinda na 51% of the nini or whatever votes. Okay? Where did these votes come from? Now, you can only ask that question if you doubt how Ruto won the elections, if you doubt the numbers. So the trick here is Ruto is on a campaign, relentless campaign, a barrage of attack, proactive propaganda to start conditioning the minds of majority of Kenyans to believe that he is actually popular, that he is actually going to win the 2027 elections, that he is the leading candidate, that he has the votes. That is his biggest task as of now. The other part, the mechanics of how the election is going to be conducted, is already done. But he knows he has to win the minds and the hearts of the people. The reality is, he's not going to win the hearts of the people because the majority of the people understand, when they look at the level of corruption, the extrajudicial killings, okay, the abductions that are happening, okay, they cannot compute. They know Ruto is full of it because what he says does not match up with the reality. So he can never win the hearts of Kenyans. So what he is doing is he wants to cast doubt to enough people, in the minds of enough people, to make them believe that he is actually popular and he actually is going to win fair and square. Remember, this is the biggest trick that was used even between Adam and Eve. The devil, when he wants to, and I'm not calling Ruto the devil, but I'm just giving an example. This is the biggest way of actually causing confusion. The devil used this on Adam and Eve. He planted doubt. That's why the Bible is very against doubting. Do not doubt. Do not doubt. Jesus says this. God says, don't doubt. Have faith. Because faith is the opposite of doubt. If you have faith, you won't doubt. Because if you doubt, it kills your faith. It kills your resolve. So it is the devil's job to cast doubt in your mind so that you start questioning things. How did he do that? He told Eve and Adam, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, that, hey, why is it that God does not want you to taste this forbidden fruit? Eat from this forbidden plant of whatever tree of life. Is he hiding something that shall reveal about him? Are you going to be clever and knowledgeable just like him? Why is he hiding that? Why can't you just try it? What was the devil doing? He was casting doubt in order for you to lose faith. Then do what? After you lose faith, unafanya nini? You lose your way by disobeying God. But back to Ruto. So the campaign by Ruto is to cast doubt among people who might be looking at the opposition and looking at them like, these people are not going to beat him. They're not going to get kura from anywhere. That's number one doubt. And how does he do it? How does he use that propaganda? He's doing it by going to the so-called strongholds that are who are the opposition strongholds and the rich voting blocks in Kenya, and splitting, bringing a split, a confusion, a division among the leaders. Why the leaders and not the people? It is because in Kenya, majority of us look at these leaders for direction. These so-called, they're not leaders, they're actually basically criminals. Okay, opportunists. Okay, wheeler dealers. Okay, so in a certain constituency, he will use Roku to bring confusion among the what? The Embu or Ameru people. In Central Province, he will use like Wakina Sijui Kangata, or what's the other guy? The guy from who always say Alienda Starehe or whatever boys he went to. Okay? Watu kama hao, Wakina Ndindi Nyoro. He uses them to challenge the opposition in those areas, the people who are opposing him in that area. Because the aim of doing this is to bring confusion among the voter, to create confusion in the voter's mind that our leaders wanagongana. Back to ODM. That's why I want to connect it to the ODM shenanigans that I'm telling you. And that's why I'm telling you, this whole division between ODM faction of Wakina Oburu, Wanga, and Joho and Mbadi and Opio and I versus the Sifuna, James Orengo, and the rest. Ruto knows he does not enjoy the majority support from Nyanza province. Luo Nyanza, that is. He knows that. Okay? So what is he doing? He knows that in Nyanza, he cannot afford to be seen. He cannot afford the narrative or the perception to be, oh, Ruto is not popular in Nyanza province. So what does he do? He meets up with Oburu, who is said to be the party leader of ODM. Okay? Meets up with Wanga, Mbadi, Opio and I, Hassan Joho and the rest. Makes a deal with them and say, hey, listen, it is in our best interests, okay? Both of us, let's have this mutual beneficial deal. I need votes from Nyanza, and I understand that you need to survive politically in Nyanza province. So in order to do so, let's continue with this broad-based government. Let's stick to it. And you guys support me for my presidential candidacy in 2027. Support me. And when I win in 2027, I will even promote some of you. That's why you can hear some of people saying that Wanga might be tapped in to become Ruto's running mate as the vice president. Unaelewa? You see what I'm saying? It is an incentive for these sellouts, okay, to stay in the broad-based government, because that way there's mutual benefits on Ruto's side and on the Gladys Wanga side, people like Gladys Wanga. How so? Gladys Wanga being greedy as she is, Mbadi being as useless as he is, greedy, Oburu being a pinhead that he is, and others, this is a sweet deal. What's there to lose? Oburu does not dream of becoming president. He knows he cannot be the president, right? So he will gleefully sign the dotted line without even thinking and promote this idea of ODM. Continue with this broad base up to 2032. Saying, okay, since we are going to enter into this agreement, our candidate shall be the vice president of Ruto come 2027. Then 2032, we shall floor our own presidential candidate. On the flip side, on Ruto's side, there shall be a perception that a good chunk or the people of Nyanza province actually support me and they will vote for me come 2027. Don't buy into the noise of Sifuna and James Orengo. These are people who are both, these are Ruto minions. Because I always say that if Sifuna had the balls that he claims to have, instead of yelling and heckling in morning talk shows, he should have resigned long time ago. But no, he's playing his part to create this rift. That's why ODM is where it's at right now. There's a division. So here's the thing, and understand this. The people, the reason why there's also this rift, and the reason why Sifuna and Orengo and others are against the pro-broad-based government is to maintain the support base of the ODM party. They want to maintain that base of support because before Raila died, ODM was the number one, was viewed as the political party that represents the people of Nyanza province, Luo Nyanza to be exact, right? But the support, its popularity was waning because of what? Because of the broad-based government. Now that Raila was dead, the people, the Luo Nyanza people are asking themselves, okay, what's the alternative? Because ODM does not seem to be the way to go, especially given the fact that the leadership or the Wanga faction are maintaining this broad-based government and actually talking about, stepping down and supporting Ruto in 2027. So that is enough to lose a chunk of the base of the supporters of ODM. So in order to keep them tethered, okay, to stay to the party or the faithful to stick to them, they have to have the faction of Sifuna and James Orengo to try to pretend it's all for public consumption. These folks, there's no real rift in it. It's a play. Remember what James Carville once said? Hollywood is for beautiful actors. Politics is for ugly actors. They're all acting. It's a game. It's a script. So the Sifunas are there to pretend that they're protecting the integrity of the ODM political party as a whole. So wanajifanya na kifua yao ati, oh, no, we are going to have our own presidential candidate. We don't agree with Ruto. We are not going to continue this broad-based government, because that is designed to do what? To play or to pander to the base of the ODM party, because they understand ODM is losing its popularity by the minute. Okay? That is why they have this so-called rift. It's a fake one. One hand, it's used to play into Ruto's overall game plan, chess game of creating the perception that he enjoys popular support in Luo Nyanza, because that's just one part of the country, rich voting basket, that he needs to create that perception to justify the rigged elections that is going to happen in 2027. That way, when he's declared the winner of the elections, the so-called doubting Thomas, when they start asking, okay, where did Ruto get his votes? the chatterboxes, the paid chatterboxes will come out and say, oh, see, she had Wanga supporting his presidency. He had Oburu, who is Raila's brother. So that way, that justifies the Luo Nyanza will probably follow under Wanga and Oburu to support his presidency. So that's where the votes are coming from. Meanwhile, the Sifunas are playing this position, their part. It's fake. Sifuna does not care about ODM. James Orengo does not care about ODM. They care about themselves, and I can prove it. Go check out the CIA Impress account and look at and what Oduol said about Nani Orengo. And Sifuna, as I mentioned. Why is Sifuna questioning everything right now that Raila is Dinio? If he really does not cares about ODM or feels that ODM is heading the wrong direction, resign and go. But anyway, that's an example of what I'm trying to say to you, show you how Ruto is playing this game. In Luo Nyanza, that's the split he is causing. Now, he will not stop there. Even among the united opposition, utaskia, Ruto will probably strike a deal with the owner of these puppets, who is none other than Uhuru Kenyatta. Right? And don't be surprised if Matiang'i or Kalonzo might come and come to an agreement with Ruto, strike a deal at the 11th hour. Hello. Don't care, I see you. Wake a like up when I see you. So the play here is this. In summation, Ruto is looking at all the opposition strongholds, all the vote-rich blocks, okay? And is causing a division, not among the voters, but among its leadership. That way, he is creating the perception that that voting bloc, the voters, because like I said, in Kenya, when a leader leaves a party, people who come from his or her tribe are assumed to will follow that particular leader. So if he causes a division in a section, some section, he has a supporter causing havoc, let's say in Central Province, the perception that he will try to create, or the narrative, is that the UDA candidate, the pro-president candidate in Central Province, has split the vote in Kiambu. That's why Gachagua's DCP did not get 100% or did not get 90% support in, 90% of the votes in whatever, Kiambu, right? That way it can justify the rigging in 2023. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comments, I'll stop here. Thank you so much, Don Kim, and everybody who's watching. If you're going to watch this on repeat, please do the same. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff. I'll talk to you guys later, and happy, Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings. I'm out.